It was Saturday, May 16, 2015, and Babymetal had finished their set on the wet, well-worn Ernie Ball stage at Rock on the Range in Columbus. The rain had nearly stopped as the girls gave their signature see you, and walked off stage. Later, waiting for the girls near the media VIP tent, was Derek, who was working his first music festival for F.Y.E. What Sue Metal, Moa Metal, and Yui Metal handed Derek that afternoon would be the stuff of legends. The girls handed him 150 booklets for their debut 2014 CD, Babymetal. These signed booklets were unique. Babymetal rarely did such signings. As the booklets began changing hands, often sold at auctions, the origin of the signed CDs became obscured. Were they real? Did the signing really happen? Writer, photographer, and Babymetal fan Gary Brock, who was also at the performance, recently interviewed Derek at the Beaver Creek, Ohio F.Y.E. to get the true story of what happened that day, the signed CD booklets, and the amazing concert itself.
How is it going? Yeah.
Should be.
So how many of these were actually signed?
So to my knowledge, based on when we did the signing, they gave us 150 booklets that were pre-signed by the band.
Right.
The band and I believe two people, whether it was management or an interpreter, I don't remember specifically, but the band came in, brought us the booklets, and they were all rubber banded together. They were all pre-signed, but they gave them to us, and they said, we can't do an actual signing for you, but we will supply you with these, and if anyone wants to pay to pre-order the CD at your store, they can have this booklet in return. So usually when an artist does a signing with us, we have anywhere from 150 to 500 copies of a particular item or of the band's general merchandise. So if it's like a band like say In Flames did a signing with us, they would give us like 4 or 5 of their albums, and they'd give us 100 to 150 of each, and then that's what we would have to sell and sign.
Okay.
So since they didn't have the album out at that time, they gave us the booklets, and they said they'll pre-order, they'll bring the receipt to your store, and that's how they redeem it at our store. And that could be redeemed at any F.Y.E. We did it with them. We've done it with Bullet for My Valentine. We also did it with Korn, and we also did it with we also did it with Godsmack and a few other artists. Some of the bigger artists, they can't always be there in person to sign with us. They'll work out some kind of deal where we send one of the people of our staff over to get the booklet signed, and then we that's what we physically give the people instead of getting an actual signing. So it's actually pretty common, but at this time, they were fairly newer. They hadn't played a whole lot of shows in the U.S. at this time, and they spoke barely any English whatsoever at this time because it was in 2015. So, but they gave us that rubber banded stack of booklets, and then we just gave them out. And we didn't even give out maybe 75 to 100 of them. So I do know a few friends of mine where some more of these booklets are floating around. So I'll have to see if I can hunt down some more of them for sure.
So did you actually, in your booth, in the F.Y.E. booth, did you actually sell these as a pre-order?
So what we did was a customer would come up, and we had posted on our social medias like, hey, we have these booklets if you come in and pre-order the album. So if someone would come in, I don't remember how much it was $10 or $15 usually for a CD. They'd pay $10 or $15. We would print them out a receipt, and we would highlight the Babymetal album pre-order so they can take it to their local F.Y.E. because there's people from all over the world that come to this concert. And we would circle that, so they say, and then they'd redeem it in store. But once they purchased and gave us that $10 or $15 for that album, we gave them the signed booklet.
So they really never even had to actually get the CD.
We never had the actual CD in person. No.
So nobody had to actually get the CD if they didn't want it.
No, so if they just wanted it signed, you could have just done that, paid the 10 or 15 bucks for it. Yeah, it's insane. It is insane because there's been a couple artists that have blown up since performances at Rock on the Range. An artist being Royal Republic. I love Royal Republic, and they did a signing, and they even did an acoustic show in our booth in 2017. And I got a CD signed by them, and they've blown up, and they're huge, more specifically in Europe. But they even do good here in the States and stuff. And Islander was one. They kind of blew up after their performance there. Young Guns and a few others. If you don't mind,
go right ahead. I'm sorry. F.Y.E. make an arrangement with Babymetal's management to do this that day? Or?
So that I don't know. In my years working, that job is called artist relations, and basically what you do is it is predetermined. F.Y.E. used to do Welcome to Rockville. What was it? Welcome to Rockville, Rock on the Range. There was one up in Chicago, Lollapalooza. We used to go to all the festivals, and we would arrange autograph sessions with all the different artists and things like that. And typically, from event to event, we like if we had a signing with Babymetal or like Ministry or Sabaton, if they played multiple festivals, they would sign with us at each festival they were at. And that was usually determined. We had a person up in our corporate office who would email the record labels and be like, would any of these artists be interested while they're playing here doing signings at our tent, blah, 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 blah. And they'd arrange all of that. Well, then our job as artist relations at the event is what we would do is we would call them and arrange, hey, I'm going to pick you up from the stage or your tour bus or the green room at this time. We'll get you in, we'll get you out, and we'll take you wherever you need to go. And we would make arrangements there. I know the Babymetal signing was not something that was planned ahead of time. That was kind of like a last second thing, because while we're there, we will go to the stage and we'll talk to management at either the bus or the green rooms and things like that. And there'd be artists we didn't have signings for, and if we noticed there was a big turnout, we would contact the management on site and be like, hey, would you be willing to do this? I think, if I remember correctly, the Babymetal thing was something that was arranged after their performance. There was such a huge turnout for them.
Yeah,
so many people were freaking out. They were like, we need to get them over here. But they're like, we can't, but here's what we can do for you.
And so it was done that, they performed about 3:30 or so, I think.
Yeah, it was in the afternoon. They weren't like, and that's what kind of blew me away, is even though they weren't like huge by that point, they weren't one of the first artists on. They played a pretty good ways into the day, which was amazing.
Yeah, because Sabaton was before them.
Yes.
Islander was before them.
Yep.
And there was somebody else before them. Mm-hmm. They were at the Ernie Ball stage.
Yep.
And
our tent was right next to it that year. Yeah.
Right, and it was pouring rain.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
It was coming down.
It lightened up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I remember just the very front of the stage was wet.
Yeah.
So they had to move back their platforms a little bit. So they actually, did you actually get to meet the girls?
Very briefly. If I remember correctly, the Sabaton signing was happening pretty close to the time when the band came through. And I was escorting Sabaton back and forth from their bus to our signing and then back.
Wow.
So it's like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off that day.
I can imagine.
Because it was my first time ever doing it, and I was a big Sabaton fan. So I was fangirling a little bit, but it was a very brief like, hey, how's it going, and stuff like that. And I took the booklets, and then I took them up to the registers. So I did have them in my hand. And I didn't realize how big of a deal that was until all these years later. But yes, I took the booklets then to the registers. I gave them a rundown of what they needed to do up there. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like I said, they were just very quick, hi, how are you, kind of thing.
Was it like in that back tent behind the stage?
Yeah, it was in the back tent right behind the stage. So the way it was set up
was like a seating area.
There was a seating area, and then there was a walkway, and then there was our tent, then there was a fence, the buses, and then the Ernie Ball stage, and you had to have one of the black passes to walk in that area. And basically, we traded black passes throughout the day, depending on who had to go where when, because they only gave us 2 or 3, but we had like 5 or 6 people doing the job, so we had to constantly be switching them out. So I had my pass on, and then I would walk back through, but that's where I met them in that little walkway back there.
Just for a few seconds.
Very, very briefly, yeah. It was cool though. I mean, just recognizing any artist that I meet at these events, even concerts I go to on my own, even if it's a band I'm not super into, it's cool getting to meet them and just be like, wow, you get paid to come and play concerts. That's so cool.
So were you a little surprised that they were about like this?
Yes.
This and this?
Yes, they were tiny little things. And keep in mind, I'm like 6'1", so it's like I'm towering over these people, and I'm just like, do I kneel down? Do I like wave at them? It was like, how do I even do this? Because again, with different cultural differences too, it's like I don't want to offend someone from a different place by doing something silly, because if there's an opportunity to make a fool of myself, I'm gonna do it. But no, they were super, super sweet. Their interpreter was very, very nice.
Yeah, she always had, every time I've seen her, and it's been 5 or 6 times. She has been very...
Yeah, and I think we dealt with her more than anyone just because of communication. But we obviously talked to the management more than we did the actual band. But they did come along when they did deliver the books to us, and I thought that was really cool because they don't have to do that, you know.
Well,
So
that was nice that they did that.
Oh, absolutely.
Very good. Well, that's great. So have you seen them since then?
Yes, I saw them at Rock on the Range. When was that? 2018.
Okay.
When they performed, because they performed back to back with Code Orange. So I watched both those performances back to back then, and that was
on that Saturday night.
Yep,
one? Yeah.
That was a really good one because Metallica ended up playing that night, and or wait, no, that was someone else. Tool was that night.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I have my Tool shirt on.
Yeah. Not the biggest Tool fan, but I was always like, you know, if I'm going to get to see him for free while I'm here, I might as well. So I stayed for the first, like, 3 or 4 songs, and then we loaded up and left for the night, and then we ended up coming back the next day. But it was a really cool experience. Getting to see them, the crowd, how they were from the first time I saw them to then, because they blew up after that first album dropped. I feel like that's when people really started taking off with them. The video for Gimme Chocolate, when that came out, I feel like that exploded overnight.
Yeah. Cool. Those were the 2 times you saw them?
Yes, those are the only 2 times I've seen them. I've been dying to see them again, so hopefully when concerts kick back up and festivals and all that, hopefully.
Maybe